What's up, guys? We are doing a little bit of a different video today. We're not talking new toys or specifically reviewing a figure. We're talking soft goods today. We're talking specifically custom capes from HarkerCustoms. So if you follow me on social media, you might have seen Harker's stuff before because I've got a decent amount of his capes, but he sent over a handful of new stuff to check out. I'm going to go ahead and, I'll put all the links down below to Instagram so you can check out his stuff and then, be aware when things are going to go up for sale. So if you're interested, you can get stuff for yourself. Now, he sent over a handful of things. We've got, of course, Vintage Collection and Mythic Legions, which, two things that I'm very near and dear to, but I have never once had a wired soft goods cape for a vintage figure from any kind of customizer. I'm familiar with Legion stuff, of course, but these are new, and I've always wanted wired capes for vintage collection figures just to add a little bit more flair. Some are a little bit different here because we've got two Mandos, we've got a Beskar, we've got a Classic, is that what we're calling it now? Classic Mando. But we've also got a Vader, which introduces a whole different layer of customizing because you've actually got to do some customizing to the figure to make this one work. So we've got three vintage figures, two of these are very similar, and then we've got Vader, and then we've also got a specific set of soft goods for the Mythic Legions Sir Gerard figure. So of course that's the Legions Con exclusive back there, but then he was also recently offered up for sale as a quote-unquote reinforcement. So we're going to look at each one of these individually. Well, maybe not the Mandos, they're the same, sort of. So we're going to start with the vintage collection, and then we're going to get to our Mythic Legions back there. So this is the Rogue One Vader. This is VC 178, if memory serves. And this guy is pretty wild. So this set is actually two pieces. And, in many cases, when it comes to putting a soft goods cape on, it's just, pop the head off, put the cape on. And this cape is actually pretty big. I thought it was really huge. I thought it was massive. This Vader comes with a soft goods cape in the box, but it's not wired. And I thought this was really big until I got that other one off of him and realized they're essentially the same size. This just affords a great deal more mobility. So, you've got it all the way out here. It can be fully outstretched if you wanted it to be, something crazy. But you can also very easily, wrap it around Vader to have it sort of cloaking him, or have it unfurled backwards behind him for like an action shot where he's blowing the cape backwards, something crazy like that. But what's really wild about this is that it's two pieces, like I said. So this includes the actual inner robes for Vader. So what you have to do is you do have to do some chopping up of this figure. You've got to get that inner robe off, and essentially I just cut the damn thing off. So the belt is left, and then you pop the inner robe down within, and there is a wire here, so you can wrap this guy around like so, and do something like that, or more specifically, you can have it kicked back so that when he's in action or something like that, you've got the inner robes kind of moved outward. So this thing does take a little bit more work. Don't get me wrong, this does take more work, but it's definitely worth it. It completely changes up a Darth Vader figure to have something like this on him rather than having some big clunky plastic cape, or to just have something that has no life to it. Like this definitely has a lot of posability. It's got a lot of dynamic potential, especially when it comes to photography. If you're one of the many people that are far more talented than I am when it comes to toy photography, this is like a game changer for vintage collection stuff. The material feels really good, also very, very consistent across both pieces. It's just a different thing. It's a different feel than the stuff that he comes with in the box, because that piece is all just very flat and kind of drab, honestly. And, for just consistency's sake, here that piece is. So it's almost see-through in many respects. Like you can kind of see the figure through this as I knock him over back there. But you've just got, a plain piece of fabric on this one that doesn't really do a whole lot. It's just going to sort of sit awkwardly over top of Vader. And let's be honest, he deserves a lot more than that. So this thing is pretty wild. Again, it does take some work. I took an X-Acto around the edge of this belt, and then you just pop the upper and the lower pieces of the robes off, and the belt will stay because it's cinched around his waist basically, and then just pop this down through. So it takes a little bit more work if you're not interested in chopping up your vintage collection Vader. Maybe you could just go with the outer one, but I cannot express how much cooler this guy is with the inner robes being able to move with him along with this cape. It adds a whole other dimension to this tiny little Vader. Now for our Mandos, these are of course capes that you could probably use for more than just Mandos, and I've already got one that I'm kind of messing around with otherwise. But these are very similar to the HarkerCustoms 112 Black Series cape. So I got in on the Black Series cape for Mando, I don't know, that was a while ago at this point. So if you got one of his capes from that, you kind of know what to expect going into these, and that's not a negative. It's just they're very similar. So let's move the Beskar one aside for a second, and we've got our standard Mando here, and this one is a little bit more difficult to pose. I will say that right off the bat because he doesn't have rockers, so it does prevent some truly dynamic posing, and the cape is going to add a little bit of complexity to him. But it's a really, really, really nice cape. Like, no doubt in my mind that anything here is a million times better than a plastic cape, and it's better than just a cape that's just going to drape over him. So he's got this really nice sort of, it's not super black, like it's not as black as the Vader fabric. It almost looks a little bit dirty in many ways, but then it's got a bunch of holes in it, tattered in there. So it definitely looks tattered and worn and old. So you can pop this guy on your Mando, and then you've got it to be able to drape over him, but then you can also, kick it backwards to where he's in sort of like an action pose. Again, you'd have to kind of watch this one because he doesn't have as good a balance as our more current vintage collection Mando. But, I mean, like even this alone, just like a standard vanilla pose with something like this is great. The wire adds a whole other dimension. I'm going to say that about a million times in this video. It adds a whole other dimension, just more depth, more ability to play around with the figure, a better way to pose, and a more dynamic representation of this guy. I mean, he's just standing there, but the wind is billowing that cape behind him. It instantly makes a cool figure cooler, right? And then we've got our Beskar Mando here, and this is the one that comes in the Moldo Crease, whatever it is, the Spider one, the Spider Vintage Collection pack, the one that also comes with the Grogu. So the fabric seems a little bit different on this one. It's of course a different color, so you've got a more dark. It's not black, but it's darker, and this is more gray. So maybe like more charcoal, and this is more normal grayish. I think I prefer this one just in terms of color, but they do look pretty good no matter what you're using them for. Because again, you can pop this cape on anything. It doesn't have to be for Mando. I used the 112 size cape on damn near everything. I had it on a turtle at one point, so don't let me stop you there. But this is more of the same. So you've got a lot of posability here. That wire again. Another layer of playability, posability, just a lot more fun with it. You can have him, sort of kicking it back, having it going up, if you've got him falling or doing something like that. And then again, you can just sort of wrap it around him to have him in sort of like a very basic pose where he's losing his gun, things like that. So, I mean, like something like this just completely transforms the figure. The fabric feels great. The wire is really well done. I mean, even the holes do seem to be very purposefully done, as ridiculous as that sounds. I mean, it feels like he's gone to great lengths to make sure that the holes look a certain way. And like I said, you can use this on any other figure. So I've kind of got, he sent me a few for this. So I've got one right here on the figure that received the character that received one of the worst treatments when it comes to sequel trilogy, our Sidon Ithano, the one and only Crimson Corsair, my favorite design to come out of the sequel trilogy. And I've got him with a cape on him too, because he had a cape and it was just a plastic shell. This one works pretty nicely on him. I think he's a 5 POA figure, but he instantly looks cooler just because he has this thing on him. Probably the star of the show for this particular video, at least for most, is the Mythic Legion's cape that we've got here from Harker for Sir Gerard. This thing is specifically made for him, and this is a great figure. I love this figure. It's really well done. It's a lot of great parts. The color scheme is really good. What the Horseman did to make this guy very unique while still being very familiar territory works really well. but this cape makes a great figure greater. There's really no other way to say it. The first thing I have to point out, not even just the fact that Harker has mimicked the color scheme. So the tabard design is also on the back of this cape, so it's very much meant for Gerard, but of course you could use it for a lot of other things too. It's not specifically something that has to go on him. You know, if you want to use it on another Mythic Legions figure, who am I to tell you otherwise? But what's really awesome is that the holes in the back are positioned properly. And you know, if you collect enough Legions, you know that when you get a stock cape, 9 times out of 10, those holes are going to be all wonky and all over the place, and you've got to fold them all over each other. You don't have to do that here. You just pop the pauldrons in the holes and put them in the back. So you've got this really big cape with the nicely applied arrow cross design that he has. The color is really well done. Of course, you know, I'm not talking just the black, but the red for the design. And then everything here is just sized really well, positioned very cleanly. And of course, you know, like I said, it mimics this design here. But this is not just a one-piece design. So he is a tabard wearing character, so that means he's got cloth over top of his armor on his chest, and it has the skirt piece that comes down, so he's included that piece here. So you've got 2 wired pieces of fabric. What you do is you pop them apart at the torso and you just put this around the ball peg. So you've got a piece that sticks out here from the back, just a small piece, and then you've got this piece up front that you can use to add a little bit more dynamic posing. And there's a lot of potential when it comes to something like this. You know, putting a wired cape on a Mythic Legions figure pretty much elevates them right away. You don't have, there's really no way to argue that point. It is absolutely a game changer, and this is easily like one of the coolest sets that I've gotten for a Legions figure in a long time. Mostly it's because of the fact that it's 2 different pieces, so just having this little guy here does add a lot of flair. So, you know, you can do something just like that. You know, this is obviously very quick and dirty, but do something like that, and you can kind of showcase that something is moving around him. So the wind is moving this piece. The wind is uplifting this cape, things of that nature. You know, you can have it wrapping around him, things like that. And then, of course, you know, you can show him moving by actually tucking it between his legs and doing something like that, because it would flow with him. So it's another one of those things that you maybe don't think it's necessary. And up until having this, I haven't really needed one of these, but now that I have one, I kind of feel like every Legions figure needs to have something like that. That's a slippery slope to go down, but I mean, that's the kind of cape this is. So this thing is just fantastic. It's easily one of the best Legions capes that I've gotten. I have a handful of third-party capes, or, you know, custom capes, and this is up there. Fabric feels great. Again, the application of those arrows looks fantastic, and it just adds a whole other layer to this guy, you know. Something like this, pose him around, move this bottom piece a little bit, and there you go. He's, you know, he's slashing. He's throwing that cape around behind him, and he looks like he's in motion, even though he's, of course, just standing still. So if you haven't gotten on the Mythic Legions custom cape train, this is a definite good place to start. This is a really, really solid set for everything down from how he's matched the colors as well as he can on these designs, to how this all flows to create a more cohesive and dynamic figure, even when he's standing still, is really well done. I cannot stress enough how big of an upgrade it is to do this to your figure. So yeah, basically what it comes down to is I'm a big old fan of these capes, and I really, really can't stress how much they're going to change just your figures. So, you know, you've got Mando capes of varying types for varying kinds of Mando figures. You know, you've got your more classic, we've got our Beskar, whatever we're calling this one, original Mando, vanilla Mando, and then we've got stuff like this Vader set here, which is a little bit more involved. You know, again, you do have to carve up that figure to get that inner robe off, but once you have this one on, you're not going to want it back anyway, so it's only an upgrade. And then we've got stuff like the Sir Gerard set here that has an entirely different kind of design with that extra red adornment that he's fastened onto the back of it. The larger size, of course, for a bigger figure. And then it's also a 2-piece set to give it a little bit more life. So I'm really happy with all of these. Like, honestly, they have completely changed all of these figures. There will never be a plastic cape on any of them ever again. I mean, Gerard didn't come with one, but he's certainly not going to be capeless now. So what we're going to do also, lastly, since you're obviously still watching this video, right, we're going to do a little bit of a contest to give away one of the regular, vanilla, standard, classic, whatever we're calling it, Mando capes. So if you're interested in that, I want you to just type the word entered, E-N-T-E-R-E-D, entered, Did I spell that right? In the comments, so I'll know that you watched to the end and you are also interested in this cape. And then I'll do a drawing in, we'll say, 5 days from when this video gets published, and then I'll reach out to the winner via YouTube, and then we can figure out a way to communicate beyond that. I'm also going to be doing giveaways for this cape and this set, but we'll do that probably one via Instagram and then one via Twitter, just to spread it out, because, you know, I've got my fingers all over the place. Got my hand in a lot of pots. So we'll do that. So this one is for this one over here on the side. I don't have one of the Gerard to give away, but I've got some of the other stuff. So again, comment entered in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the rest of these, by the way. And I'm going to put all of Harker's contact information and ways you can see his stuff and get his products in the description down below. So yeah, be sure you check him out and get your hands on these as soon as you can.